want to talk about for just a little while, I shall recover all. Amen. I shall recover all. I'm going to ask you to look at someone around you very quickly and look at them and tell them, I shall recover all. Amen. That's what I want to talk about for just a moment today. I shall recover all. As we're in this Reclaiming the Land series, brothers and sisters, it is very interesting, this passage in the life of David. David now has actually, since chapter 28, he's been out to battle. And for a matter of fact, he's been winning. He's really been wreaking havoc since chapter 28 of 1 Samuel on the enemy. For he has actually been called to come in and actually help in order that those that were fighting would be able to succeed, because David knew how to fight. He knew how to gather his troops, and he knew how to conquer other tribes, other groups of fighters. He had it. He could do it. He knew what he was doing. But all of a sudden, brothers and sisters, according to the passage, on this particular day, when he returns back to the camp where he left his wives and his men, children, and their wives, when he returned back, only to discover that when he got back there, the Amalekites had invaded their land in Ziklag and burnt the city. Now, good news is the fact of that they didn't kill nobody, but they took them captive. Brothers and sisters, can you imagine this? Only to go back home and discover that your place of residency has been invaded. Someone here can attest to that, because it's kind of difficult whenever you've experienced a burglary at your house, to whereas your personal items have been violated, have been now taken. Someone just coming, the thought of somebody just coming in your house, the fact will cause you at night to lose sleep and not feel comfortable, because your place of refuge and your place of peace has been violated. Brothers and sisters, and they violated, or they now came into David's camp and took not things that didn't matter, but here we go, they took their wives, took their children, took what means most to them. And maybe I'm talking to somebody here today that have lost something or some things that's valuable to you. You will not be able to understand the grief and the agony that these men and David are feeling until you have had something that is personable and something that means a lot to you to be taken from you. What is it? Because you hadn't forgotten what it is. What is it? No, it hadn't slipped your mind. It's the agony and the hurt and the grief that people live with every day because of what has been taken, what has been violated, something that is promised to you, and then here comes your enemy that comes in and takes it from you. Or they lure your possessions away, lure your sons, lure your daughters, lure your marriage right out of your hands, lure the relationship with your children, lure the relationship with children and parents, lure it right out of your hands, and it is out of your grip, seems to be out of your control, seems like there's nothing you can do but sit and sulk in your feelings, weeping and crying and weeping. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what takes place in the first few verses of this passage until you can look in this verse and understand what David and the men are going through. Because the Bible says in verse number 4 that when these men discovered that their land has been violated and that these Amalekites have taken their wives and their children and carried them away, really don't know where they took them, just know they got them, don't know what kind of condition they're in or what they may do to them later, have no clue. And now these men, watch this, who are mighty in valor, according to verse number 4, these strong men now weep like babies. Men who grown and they are strong warriors. So are you. But what has brought you to your knees lately? What has brought you down to your knees, has punched you in the gut and caused you to weep uncontrollably? The Bible says in verse number 4 that they wept until they had no more power or strength to weep. And you know, when you crying, sometimes you start saying stuff out of your emotions that you really don't mean, but you're just mad. Amen. Amen, brothers. You draw water from a woman's eyes and she go to crying. She'll tell you some stuff, or say some stuff to you, or even do some stuff to you. Won't y'all wake up here and talk to me just for a minute? Amen. Amen. But because these men have gotten in their feelings. And now when you're in a situation like that, ain't nothing else to do but start pointing the finger. See, David, if it had not been for us running behind you and being with you, then we could have been here in order to protect our children and wives. Now, see, because at this point, they need to point the finger at somebody, and they're so vexed in their grieving until emotionally they are drained, and now pointing the finger. And sometimes, listen to this, sometimes we're busy in our grieving, pointing the finger at each other, and you let the devil off the hook. It reminds me of what the Apostle Paul says in Ephesians chapter 6 to the church at Ephesus. In verse number 12, he said, y'all got it all twisted. He said, you wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. You're wrestling against spiritual wickedness in high places. He said, while you point the finger at some person and trying to point the finger at somebody for your grief, and you have not accused the devil yet. Devil gets to go all free, and you're right here fighting people. The devil gets to go off with your stuff, and you're blaming it on people. It's not people, it's a spirit. It's a spirit. I'm going to say that again to you. It's a spirit. And let me tell you something. You're going to be more powerful and more effective when you start combating that spirit. Amen. Look at somebody on your road. I don't ask y'all to talk to each other that much lately, but I'm going to ask you today. Tell somebody on your road. Tell them it's that spirit that's evil, not me. It's the spirit that's evil. It's the devil. It's Beelzebub. It's Lucifer. It's the devil that you need to fight. Not me. I'm not your problem. And what verse number 4, 5, and 6 says, verse number 4 and 6 says that these guys are so upset that they say we ought to kill David. Why don't we just take it out on him? Some of you here today been using so much energy taking it out on one another, taking it out on him, taking it out on her, saying words to people that cut to the soul, saying things to people that hurt them to the heart. Because you got to take it out on somebody. But I would suggest to you today, don't take it out on people. It's the devil. It is evil that has invaded your camp. It is evil that has made your home unhappy, made your haven hard. It is evil that has invaded your family. It is the evil spirit that lurketh, that needeth a body, that needs somewhere to dwell in order to carry out its mission. And until you make it up in your mind that you're going to stop fighting people and start dealing with the principality. See, God is taking us into a season to understand, listen to this, that you can't cuss this one out. I know you can run them up one side and down the other. You can't cuss this one out. No. You can't take a knife and put it up to somebody's neck and go straighten people out. You can't use the nasty, harsh words. Oh, no, that's not the way to do it. You're not going to get anywhere with this one. You can't take a gun and shoot it out. You can't take a knife and stab it out. You cannot take your hand and beat it out. There is a spirit that you have to confront. And only the weapons of warfare are the ways to handle the spirit you're up against. Y'all don't hear me here today. Because according to the scriptures, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They are not worldly, but they are only mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, to bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. You got a spirit you got to deal with. And you're going to have to use spiritual weapons in order to get your stuff back. Oh, I wish I had time to play with this thing here a little while longer, but my time is ticking, and I need you to just help me preach this on your road and tell somebody you're going to get it back, but it's spiritually you got to go. You got to go spiritual. You're going to get it back, but you're going to have to go the spiritual route to get it. Don't get it back, but you're going to have to go the spiritual route to get it. And so here we go. Let me give you three things. So if you're going to get your stuff back, if you're going to succeed all the way to verse number 18, I like this. Here it is. If you, according to verse number 18, going to recover all, there's three things you got to do. Three things, and I'll leave you alone. Three quick things, for a matter of fact. Number one, you must have, in order to get your stuff back. You ready? Y'all ready? Somebody say ready, Brown. Okay, all right, you ready? Number one, you must have the affirmation received from the Lord. Affirmation received from, if you're going to get your stuff back, you must have the affirmation received from the Lord. Let me show it to you. Here it is. It's right here. That David now, according to the text, he encourages himself in the Lord. All right? Let me say this. You're going to have to learn, number one, before I tell you what the affirmation is, you got to learn how to pull yourself up out of your hole. According to the text, verse number 5 and 6, or verse number 4 and 6, according to the text, everybody's against him. All his homeboys want to stone him, according to verse number 6. So he didn't have anybody to lift him up, pick him up, encourage him. But let me tell you where he found encouragement at. According to the text, according to the verse, he found encouragement in verse number 6 inside of himself. See, once you scratch through your grief, you have to lay hold on your own encouragement. Now, I would love for someone else to encourage me and love for somebody else to help pull me out. But sometimes you'll find yourself in situations where there's nobody else there to do it. And you're going to have to pull way down in your gut. I don't care how bad, you're going to have to pull way down in your belly and encourage. If nobody gonna say nothing nice about you, and if nobody don't tell you that you can make it, you can do it, you can accomplish it, you can get it, if nobody else can do that, if nobody else does that, you're gonna have to be able to talk to yourself and encourage yourself. I'm trying to find the people that had to do that just this week. That you had to tell yourself, self, you're going to be all right. Self, I don't do enough to know what God can do. Self, God ain't left you and he ain't brought you this far to leave you. Self, the Lord is with you. Self. And when you start encouraging yourself, you have to have now, you now must, in order to get your stuff back, you have to have the affirmation received of the Lord. What is it? This is in verse number 7. You can't get your stuff back in a nutshell unless you have God's permission. See, what David says in verse number 7, and David said to Abiathar the priest, bruh, bring me here the ephod. This ain't the first time David been messing with his ephod thing. You'll remember, for those of y'all, when he brought the Ark of the Covenant back to Jerusalem, he was dancing in a linen ephod. See, this ephod, watch this, he puts it on. And when he put on the linen ephod, he now talks to God. Now, let me tell you what the ephod represents. Now, of course, the ephod is a priestly garment. But the ephod that David wore was not for the high priest, but for associates. And this ephod, number one, write this down, represented praise. It represented priestly praise. It represented not only priestly praise, but it was also a prayer garment for the priest. So anytime the priest would offer up any sacrifice, interceding on behalf of people, the priest would wear the ephod. Now, watch David. You see, okay. Remember what I just told you? That David, verse number 6, encouraged himself in the Lord. He, in other words, was already turning his gloom into glee. Y'all get that? He was already turning his pity into praise. See, you cannot put on the ephod and then praise. You have to already have a spirit of praise in you before you put the ephod on. Watch this. Let me give you the procession and the progression. Praise because I need to pray. Praise because I need to pray. The ephod was for a priestly praise. For one, number two, who's about to pray, so that he would be able to prepare. Do it again. So, when I put the garment on, I'm allowed to wear the ephod because of praise. I've already put on the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. And a lot of y'all got praying backwards. See, you know. See, watch this. It's where you're praying from. You're praying from a place of disgust and despair. And that does not arouse God. Oh, I'm going to teach good today. That doesn't arouse God. Because you're praying from a place of despair. And where there's despair, there's no faith. Good God. Let me talk to this side because y'all ain't saying that, okay? So in other words, you have to put on praise first before you pray. Why do I need to put on praise before I pray? Well, number one, because praise ignites God, alerts God, gets God's attention. And according to Scripture, he inhabits the praises of his people. He lives in the praise. I'm going to take my time with you. I say he lives in it. So since he lives in the praise, David is allowed to put the garment on because the garment represents, I'm going to go deep into the presence of God, and I'm about to talk to my God. And even though there's despair, I have already started encouraging myself. So I'm already bringing myself up out of this thing. I'm already telling myself that I got the power, the strength, and I can do this. And so he puts this garment on because the next thing he needs to do is pray. Pray. But it causes, watch this, it causes him to pray from a position of praise. Even though he still got a problem. Look at you. See, if Chester Tyler Cole really want to get something out of me, Johnson, don't come to me. Oh, Daddy. Oh, Dad. See, because as your daddy, you acting like I don't have the means to get you out. And so now, your petition gets nowhere with me. Because if you would have come to me and said, Dad, listen, I know you're already able to do this. And Dad, you are awesome. You can move mountains. He can move mountains. He can keep me in the valley. See, y'all missed it a little earlier. You can hide me from the rain. Dad, you're awesome. You heal me when I'm broken. Strength where I am weak. Daddy, forever you'll reign. See, y'all don't know how to pray yet. That you bringing your, see, if he tells you to come boldly, he didn't say come broke down. He said come pick yourself up and broaden your shoulders and go to your father because you know your father is able. Come to the Father and come boldly so that you can obtain mercy in the time of need. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Do y'all understand what I'm talking about? And he puts on the linen ephod. And so what he does, he says, because I need to prepare for this battle. Boy, I gotta hurry. And when he says prepare for the battle, he said, Lord, I need to pray a little bit. Listen at his prayer. Verse number 8. Shall I pursue? Lord, I'm asking you. Some of y'all don't know because you ain't asked. Shall I pursue these people? And if I pursue them, shall I overtake them? Because I can pursue and lose. Which tells me, y'all stop praying half prayers. Amen. Stop praying half prayers. Get all the details. And this also tells me that if you talk to God, he will talk to you. Now I want to give, and the Lord woke me up 2 days ago. I said, Brown, make sure you tell the folk at the church. All of them, because he said everybody in the building ain't ever heard my voice. There's a lot of, he said, you're talking to a good master, he ain't never heard God's voice. He said, tell them I told him, tell them that God, that I'm telling you to follow the scriptures. That if you put on a garment of praise and put that praise garment on and begin to praise God. He said, tell him, you will engage me. You will ignite me. He said, and then pray. And when you pray, because praise will put you in a realm. Okay? Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. The word courts represents worship. And the three courts of God, outer courts, inner courts, holy of holies. Holy of holies is where God dwells. And so enter into his gates with thanksgiving. And how do you get into his courts? Praise. And so praise pushes you closer and closer. And the closer and closer you get into the presence of God, you'll get lost there. I promise you will. You will get lost there. And you will hear the voice of God. And God may be speaking loud. Then God may be speaking soft. God may be speaking through the thunder. He may be speaking through the lightning. But you will know when God speaks. Because some of you here today, you need some answers. Man, I got to go. You need some answers, man. You need some answers. You need some answers. I got to be sitting down in 10 minutes. You need some answers. Huh? So pray. Praise first. Pray. Then he heard the Lord say, pursue. Lord said, go ahead. For thou, verse 8, shall surely recover all. This is all you need. See, let me tell you something. Y'all see some of us around here dancing and acting a fool. It's because we didn't hear God. And you ain't but one answer away. See, that, you know, if God said pursue, you're going to recover all, that changes your attitude. Watch this. Point number 2. Because now you have, point number 2, I got to hurry, the audacity to recover your loss. The audacity. Yeah. The audacity. But how do you have the audacity? Because the Lord said, pursue. You shall recover all. That's all David needs. He has, can I use that? He has a guarantee that you ain't going to lose this one. That God is backing you up. Now the problem is when you go and you ain't got no backup. You doing something and ain't got God to say yes. But if God says pursue, you cannot fail. And now you got the audacity. What's wrong with you? Why don't you have some audacity? Why don't you have some unmitigated gall? Why don't you have any guts? Why are you so soft, Christian? Why are you such a devil pushover? Well, that's just the way it is. I just got to put up with it. You know, the devil got my child and he gone. You know, he on them drugs and stuff. You know, he out there just strung out. I just had to do it. I know the Lord told me he going to be and all that kind of stuff. Told me he's going to have a lot of promise and a lot of future in front of him. But I'm telling you, the devil just wrecking his life. And I just got to sit here and just, put up with it. And then the devil come and get your daughter. And so you just watch the devil come right on in and snatch your daughter. And here you go in church, you just had to learn how to just put up with some stuff, and then, and then now your marriage is on the rocks. Boy, I mean, your house is a demonic invasion place. I mean, devil just coming there, your children, now, since you got your kids, now you got your children, you getting the grandkids, and you got your marriage, you paying the mortgage on a house you ain't even happy in. You paying for the devil to come and eat in your house, and for the devil to come and just tear it up, and you paying for it. Can't even get a good night's sleep in a house you paying rent on or you paying the mortgage on. And you're just a pushover. He push you over on your job, and he push you over at the doctor's office, and he push you or he kick you around in the morning, and the devil kick you around in the evening, and then he come and get in your face and tell you what you ain't gonna do, and you just sit there, yes sir, Mr. Devil, yes sir, Mr. Devil, and then you think I'm crazy because I refuse to sit there and let the evil enemy keep on invading my house, invading my family, invading my children, invading my wife and daughters and my Lord have mercy. You got to have some ability to get it going. Where's your fight? Where's your guts? Huh? Where are they? That dare to pursue your stuff. Some of us have had joy since you first got it 30 years ago in your salvation. David said in Psalms 51, Lord, restore unto me the joy of my salvation. And some of us don't even have joy. The devil, he don't take big stuff. I mean, take little stuff. He take your big stuff. See, because you can get a car. You can get another house. Huh? But he taking stuff that matter, like your peace, your joy, your happiness, your peace of mind. Audacity. I'm out. Y'all tired of me. Y'all tired of me. Let me see it. Let me go and wrap this up. You know, y'all come. If a ball game going to overtime, y'all fine. I understand. You know, but church can't go into overtime. Preacher too long. He just preaching too long. Oh, I'm trying to help you, man. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. You know, I know they can't sit there too much longer. And our church service, I ain't used to no long service. Y'all stay in church, but go to you a church that'll get you out in 45 minutes that don't care nothing about your victory. But I'm here today to preach to some people, and I'll preach it until you get it, until you get some guts and get some gall, until you get bad in the Holy Ghost and say, I believe I'm going to go and get my stuff back. Hey, look at somebody on your road and say, I'm going to get my stuff back. I'm going to get my stuff. Now, David is on the way. He done looked at his boys. Y'all have to read this when you get home. I'm about done. You have to read this when you get home. Let me just paraphrase to get you out there. He looked at his boys. He said, now all y'all that ain't still crying, come on, go with me. I had 600, but I ain't got but 400 that can wipe their noses and come on and go with me. So the boys, 400 of them, say, all right, we got you, David. Come on. He said, come on, let's go. While they were going. See, watch this. When you with the enemy, see, the enemy don't have no love for you. See, I want to give a shout out to those who do evil for the enemy and do the enemy's work. Because once you can't do what the enemy wants you to do, the enemy is going to dump you off. Enemy ain't got no love for you. The only thing the enemy love is what you can do for them right now. See, and the enemy, when you don't believe me, okay, when David was on their way, the Bible said he pursued. But verse number 11 said there was an Egyptian man that was a servant to one of the Amalekites that had invaded his, and he messed around and then helped them to tear up David's land in Ziklag, but on the way getting out of there, he got sick. And so ain't nobody tried to carry him. Ain't nobody got a cart and said, we'll carry you on. They left him in a ditch. Y'all don't hear me? But God made it so that when David was passing through, he said, hey, who is this? And the Egyptian man said, oh, let me tell you who I am. I'm a servant that they left behind. And what I'm going to do is, you going to get them things? He said, yeah. He said, let me tell you where they at. According to the passage, according to and David, he said, you going to tell us? And David said in verse number 12, y'all get the boy something to eat. Give him some figs. Come on, y'all follow me on the screen. Give him, verse number 12, give him some figs and give him some water, get his strength up so he can talk real clear and so he can get his brains together and tell us exactly what we need to know. And they did it. And the boy sat there and ate bread and they left him enough there for 3 days and 3 nights. They had what they needed, knew exactly where the enemy was because God orchestrated it. God said, David, because I told you that you're going to recover everything. It's my job now to lead you directly to where you need to be. Oh, I got to go. But why don't you tell somebody on your road, get excited real quick and tell them that God has already paved the way. God has already put in place the people that need to be in place to tell me exactly where my baby is. Tell me exactly where my child is. Tell me exactly where my stuff is. And to tell me exactly who got my stuff. And the Bible said when David got down there, lastly, it was the accomplishment of regaining your loot. It was, lastly, the accomplishment of regaining your loot. I use the word loot because the word loot is only used in the time of war. Loot is what you recover from an enemy. And so now, when David got down there and he saw where they were, oh, I got to go. I like this. I like this. I like this. Verse number 15 and 16 says, and so when he got down there, brought him in, and verse 16 says, and they were down there with David's stuff. He looked over the horizon. The enemy down there dancing, drinking, because they had took David's stuff. Some of you right now who have decided to go get your stuff, you have a season that you're watching the devil dancing with it, celebrating over it. Got your stuff, and he's so bold, he down there dancing. Hey, throwing a party with your stuff. But the wealth of the wicked has been stored up for the righteous. That's what the Bible says. And even though the devil got your stuff, his time is limited. All of a sudden, David went in there, verse number 17, and David went to put no whooping on the enemy. Verse 17 says he whooped them from morning twilight all the way to the evening of the next day. You ought to tell somebody around you, when I get hold to the devil, I'm going to whoop him all night, and I'm going to whoop him all day. I'm going to whoop him for what he did, and I'm going to whip him for what he thought about doing. I'm going to whoop him for the old. Don't that sound like your mama? And I'm going to whoop him for the new. And David put a whipping on the devil. Now, brothers and sisters, he died there whooping them, and no man was able to escape. And all of a sudden, when David finished whooping the enemy, he recovered all. Verse 18, his stuff. This man This man. This man. I say he recovered all of it. He got his wives. There was some men with him. He said, now y'all get y'all wives. Because we didn't beat the enemy, Doc. The enemy is already defeated. But I got to go downhill when I tell you this. In the accomplishment of regaining your loss, the enemy, listen to this, was beat. Amalekite was beat. The enemy had to give up the stuff. But little did David know that there were some enemies in his camp. Because people that was in his camp started saying, hey, David, why are you grabbing this? This belongs to her, and she didn't make the journey. Wait a minute now, David, hold on. And David said, no, this belongs to him. I know he was too weak in the weeping to make the journey. I said, no, David, no, you get your wife and your children and your stuff, and we get our stuff, and we get on out of here, and we get some of this other stuff and gold and silver for us. But now they wasn't strong enough to come. Well then, let their stuff stay here. And the Bible says, so what David did, since he had some evil men in his camp and some wicked men, verse number 22, he answered the wicked men. He said, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to paraphrase it for you. He said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take their stuff and I'm going to give them their stuff back for them. Because here it is, when Nathan, I get my stuff. And I, Talia, have accomplished what God said I will accomplish. I am not, Sheila, going to be hard-hearted. See, there's some people in this church. Reverend McCullough, that is not strong enough to make the journey. There's some seniors in here. Some of them can go with us. But then there's some that's sickly and some who ain't as strong as we are. So how dare we go down to the enemy's camp and we gonna get our stuff, but we gonna leave yours. But I'm here today to tell you good news. I'm not evil. I don't have an evil spirit to whereas I'm only concerned about my stuff. Because, you know, when the devil come to my house and when the devil come to your house and get your son, I can't be absent-minded to think that he won't return to get mine. Y'all don't hear me? That when he done invaded your house and he done took and messed up all your stuff, how dare I think that he don't know my address? So Kirkpatrick, since I know, Anthony, that the devil, took some of your stuff and you were not strong enough in order to make this journey. Well, since I got my stuff, David said, what we gonna do is we gonna get everybody's stuff. Can you look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, when I get my child, I'm gonna grab yours too. If I see your daughter down there, when I grab my baby, I'm going to pick up your child along with you. And for a matter of fact, when I get my money, you don't hear me? When I grab my money, I'm going to grab enough for you too. Because I know your bills are due. And I know you need a new car. And you need a new house. And you need to pay your child tuition. Can I get some help in here to wrap your arm around, wrap it around your neighbor and say, neighbor, I'm not stingy, I'm not evil, but I shall recover all. And all means not just my stuff, but I'm getting your stuff too. And I'm going to help you to get the victory also. Turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor, I shall recover all. Everything that the devil took, everything that the devil stole, we shall recover it. He's invaded our house. He's invaded our church. He's invaded our bodies. He's invaded our families. He's invaded us on the job. He's invaded us in our community. But don't you be dismayed. I heard the Lord saying, pursue, pursue. Don't sit on your couch. Pursue. Don't just sit there like a bump on a log. On your mark. Get ready. Let's go. Shake your neighbor. Wake your neighbor up. And tell your neighbor, crying days. Crying days are over. Wipe your eyes. Dry your tears. The Lord told me to tell you, we shall recover all. Everything that the enemy took from your grandma and from your granddaddy. Ah! Go get it. Shake about 5 hands and say, go get it. Go get it. Go get your children. Go get your daughters. Go get your money. Go get your son. And tell them, the Lord commands you to not die, but he commands you to live. And I shall recover all. Are you ready? If you're ready, tell your